Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Rachel with Dark Knight Coaching. Today's video is going to be all about your head and your heart. So if you've ever heard the saying head and heart or heart and head, those sort of things, this is what we're going to talk about today. This has to do with your crown chakra and your third eye chakra. So that's all in the head space, and then your heart has to do with your heart chakra. Now, the heart and the head have one thing in common. They both have memory. And I know that might sound weird to some of you if you're not familiar with something called the vagus nerve. But the vagus nerve is a nerve that goes from our brains to our hearts, and it carries signals from the brain to the heart. But the heart also contains something called neurotransmitters, and it has a network of neurons as well. So the heart, if you think of it, the heart isn't actually like a ball shape. It's actually a spiral. The heart can actually physically be unraveled, and it is in the shape of a spiral. And the plasma, our life energy, is actually what keeps it going. So not only does the head have memory, but the heart has memory. So if you've ever had any instances where someone has brain damage or, maybe memory loss, it's like they are still very, very capable of remembering the feelings and emotions and even certain preferences of things when their head may be affected. So for instance, if someone gets a heart transplant, that person is capable of having memories come to their brain and reminding them of a different person, whoever they've got that donation from, their past experiences. The heart retains memory. And not only does the heart retain memory, this is another kind of fun fact about the heart, it also can predict what's going to happen. So there's been studies to show that not only does the heart have memory, it can also know before the brain knows what's going to happen. I forget what the name of the study is. Sorry, I paused the video to look it up because I was like, I got to give you the name of this. So there was a study that a professor in Florida did, Roland McCready, and he was at the HeartMath Institute is where he did his research. So basically it says that in his experiments, subjects have experienced a predicate where they have basically established that it's almost like a type of clairvoyance, which is basically a clear seeing of what's going to happen in the future, and that their heart rate and their heart waves can significantly predict things before they actually happen. So it's like, I think the study was, he had a bunch of cards that were flipping on the computer, and they had to guess if it was something that was going to be good or something that was going to be bad based on the images. And somehow the heart had already pre-prepared the brain essentially for whatever it was going to receive next. So the heart and the head are very, very connected. Now, your crown chakra and your third eye give you access to your supernatural abilities, and those are called the CLAIRS. So if you're not familiar with clairvoyance, I'm going to break down each type of clair, and I'm going to kind of go over a broad, very short synopsis of them, and then in another video I will probably break them down piece by piece so you have a little bit more information about the CLAIRS. So the crown chakra, sometimes in childhood we have, we all have energy, and energy does not go away. So the energy might have to transform or transmute or move to some different part of us, especially if you are a child that has had a lot of trauma and maybe you weren't raised in a stable environment. A lot of the times your energy from your root chakra, from your sacral chakra, from your solar plexus gets pushed up into your higher chakras. So if you've ever known someone, even as a young kid, they've had these abilities to see things or know things or hear things that other people can't, that's most likely a common reason why, because that energy literally transmuted itself as a self-preservation kind of thing. So that person or child could be more aware of their surroundings. So sometimes you'll see people who have access to the third eye chakra where they know things, but they may have a closed heart still. And I know that sounds a little contradictory because all that energy was flowing up, but just because you have access to your third eye chakra does not necessarily mean you have full access to your crown chakra or to your heart chakra. So in order to gain access to your crown chakra and your third eye chakra and your heart chakra, you have to have a lot of things in alignment. You have to have a third eye awakening or opening, or you have to have a heart opening, or you have to most likely be in a situation as a child where those things have kind of already happened in little ways for you. So in establishing a solid foundation to get to the crown chakra, you have to obviously start at the root, which is the base, and work your way up. It doesn't have to be in that consecutive order, but it is vital that everything is kind of in alignment. Otherwise, you might have access to certain abilities, but it's kind of like you probably only ever have access to that one type of ability your entire life if you're not actually focusing on progressing your other chakras and healing those wounds and things like that. So ascending is the process of gaining access to all of your chakras, which is why you're here today. So this video is all about ascending for you, and that can only begin if you have an open heart and an open mind. Now, some people have those psychic abilities, and you'll hear, that maybe they see things, maybe they feel things, taste things, know things. Those are called the CLAIRS. Those are just the types of abilities that all of us essentially have access to if we know the proper keys or the proper way to get to those abilities. So a lot of us might have those things without even realizing it. I, as a child, had a lot of those things without even knowing what they were, but I also was very much so gaslit by my parents and my family into not believing in myself or trusting my instincts or trusting my gut. And, until I did my shadow work and my healing all of the childhood wounds and my masculine and feminine wounding, I didn't really know it well enough to trust myself that was what I was experiencing. Now, sometimes if you have memories of past lives, that can be also tied to your heart chakra as well. I know that sounds a little strange, but our souls carry an imprint, and there's so much we don't know about our DNA that I do feel like it is prominent when it comes to past lives. So sometimes we can unlock those keys without even really realizing what we're doing, and it might come to you in a dream space where like you have this dream and it feels so real that you're like, oh, that felt so real, even though it wasn't me and it wasn't in this life. It might be a memory from a past life. So the clairs that I want to talk about today, again, this is just going to be a very broad centered discussion, and then in the next videos I will probably get more into detail about each types of clair. There are 5 very popular clairs, and then there's a couple more that I added just because I think it's relevant for this video. So clairvoyance is clear seeing. That's usually tied to your third eye chakra because your third eye is called your mind's eye, and that's basically where your imagination is housed. There's something called clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and that can be like if some of you have ever experienced like you feel like somebody's in the room with you or somebody's watching you, that sort of energy, and it could be a spirit that's passed away, or it could be like you felt somebody watch you from across the room. That's also a type of clair. And then there is clairgustance, which is taste. So sometimes loved ones or people that pass away might, especially for psychic readings, people might send them like a familiar taste of something like peppermints or things of that nature, just as a reminder or a message to someone of like, hey, this is a confirmation that this person really is here because, Grandma Rosie really loved peppermints. And then clairtangency, is touch. So you might feel like maybe someone has touched your shoulder, or someone, maybe a cat or a dog is walking around you or jumped on your bed. Something like that would be a very clear case of clairtangency. But with clairtangency, Reiki healers are a great example of this. So they're very attuned to energy and they can feel things differently. And, if you've ever had a really good chiropractor that just like really knows and can feel parts of your body that are that most people can't. They probably have a subconscious case of clairtangency where they can just feel things differently than others can. Now, clear empathy is the feeling of other people's emotions. And again, if you've been raised in a traumatic childhood experience, if you've had a lot of trauma growing up, you probably are very empathic. There is toxic empathy, because a lot of the time those with the ability to have clear empathy is they're like sponges and they absorb everyone's energy in the room, and that can be overwhelming. So you might find yourself being quite the introvert if you're going through that, or if you've been through that. Now, clairaudience is the next one, and there's 2 more I'm going to cover after that. But clairaudience is receiving sounds or messages. Sometimes that might sound like humming or like a ringing noise in your ear. Other times you could hear things that aren't there, like, for instance, the keys of a piano or some music playing of some sort. Like, you might hear that. Or sometimes you could even be hearing loved ones that have passed away, or you'll have a thought that maybe you feel like wasn't your own, but it's someone communicating with you. Even though it might sound like your own voice in your head, it's someone else that has possibly passed on that is sending you a message. Now, clairalience is smells. So if you smell something that doesn't seem possible, I've had this one before where I've smelled jasmine and I had no idea what the smell was for months and months, and I was like, this smells so familiar, but I can't name it. I've never had this smell before. I don't have any perfume like this. And then, later down the line, when I was out on a walk, I found a jasmine bush thing, and I was like, that's what the smell was. But it was a couple months later before I realized that's what the smell was. But it could be just like a familiar scent where someone's sending you a message, or it could be messages from you in a past life where that was maybe your favorite scent. And then the last clair I have that we're going to talk about today is claircognizance. This is clear knowing. So if you've ever had those just instinctual times where you're like, that person, like, there's something off about them, I'm not quite sure, I can't put my finger on it, but I just don't have a good gut feeling, that is most likely claircognizance. And that's just that deep knowing of, like, whether someone's intentions are good and bad. Usually it's a culmination of, like, clear empathy and clairvoyance and just clairsentience. Like, you can just kind of feel, see, and know things about someone that you've maybe never met before, but they've just either rubbed you the wrong way or you just get a bad sort of vibe. But it can also be a good vibe too. So I don't want to say it's one way. It could be like somebody you meet and you're like, man, we just get on so well. Like, I just really know this person. And chances are it's probably somebody from a past life or a past experience that you've had. So that is the head and the heart. I do think that it's a very important thing to focus on, especially opening your heart chakra. Access to your clear abilities are great, but it can sometimes be overwhelming. And as you're going through your chakras and as you're doing the healing and the shadow work, it's a very heavy burden to have abilities sometimes, because you don't always know exactly what you should be using them for or what information is coming to you that you should be sharing, and it can make you feel a little crazy. So make sure you're trying to find balance and harmony with that. Again, just watch my next video. I will have about all of these clairs, and I'll share some of my own experiences a little bit more in depth, so you can kind of get a good idea of what's happening to you or what to expect if you're going through a third eye opening or if you're going through a heart chakra opening, because your head and your heart are highly tied together. However, they don't have to be. So just remember, just because you have abilities, it doesn't necessarily mean your heart chakra is open. And just because your heart chakra is open, it doesn't necessarily mean your third eye is open either. And for both of those things, it's a pretty significant feeling that you're going to be very aware if you've had a heart opening experience or a third eye opening experience. So if this video helped, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps my channel to grow, and I greatly appreciate it. If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, you can do that and send me a message, or go on my website and I can get you started on your healing journey and your spiritual path, and we can go over a nice itemized list and things that you can work on to help you ascend. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.